Hi, I'm Clésia Mendes, and welcome to the second season of Womanhood from the Inside Out. In this interview series, we'll be discovering and uncovering the nature of womanhood from the inside out. Why is it important? When does it show? How can we identify it? And what are the implications of womanhood from the inside out? And today's guest is my dear friend, Susie Collins. Susie, along with her husband Otto, is a certified transformative coach who shares with others how to create more joyful, connected, and loving relationships and lives. Together, they are the authors of several books, audios, courses, and have published a free weekly online newsletter on relationships since 1999. Their book and course titles include Should You Stay or Should You Go? Magic Relationship Words, No More Jealousy, and Red Hot After 50. Susie is a retired library director and adjunct professor for women's studies, speech, and education courses. Welcome, Susie.
Oh, thanks, Clésia. It's so wonderful to be here, especially talking about this topic.
You are most welcome. I'm so looking forward to it. And how did you first came across the inside out understanding of life?
Well, I think that's a progressive feeling inside me that everything has led up to this deeper understanding that everything is inside. There is no outside in. It's just inside. And I formally came into this understanding 2 years ago, but it started so much back years and years ago. I was married to the same guy for 30 years. And I was going along doing my spiritual growth, really learning about me and what was inside me. And there came a point where we just decided it was pretty much mutual that our time was up. And he left. And I was devastated, even though I thought, okay, intellectually, this is a good thing. But I was still devastated. And it was like I was so concerned with him, how he was eating, where he was staying, who he was with. And it wasn't so much jealousy, but it was concern for him. So I had this cloud of, concern for him. And it wasn't until I remember the moment I was standing in my living room. And it was like, wait a minute. I have my whole life ahead of me, or half a life. I was over 50 at that time. It was like, what? Wait a minute. What about me? What about my life? What do I want? And I didn't realize it then, but it was wisdom speaking through me and guiding me to, wait a minute, wake up here, wake up. You are not living outside in, because everything was outside. Let's come inside and see and just look at what's there. And I recall thinking, okay, this is like a trapeze. Can I, after 30 years being with this man, and he was the father of my daughter, can I let go of the trapeze and reach for the other one that's swinging? Can I do that? And I did. I met the love of my life in 3 months, which was very strange. And he was 16 years younger than I was. He was 36 at the time. And it's like, what am I doing here? How could he possibly be excited about me, want me? But we weren't in charge. And it was like wisdom again was guiding us. And it didn't make sense on the outside. I thought, okay, so I'm going to be 80. He's going to be 64 and still relatively young. I'm going to be an old shriveled woman, and he had his fears too. that oh, she's going to die before me. And when we realized, live in the present moment. Don't live in the past. Don't live in the future. Live right here, right now. Cherish each moment. Then it all changed.
Wow. Susie, I absolutely love the story. Just the first few minutes of this show is incredible. First of all, several things. Is the first one is that you were in a marriage for 30 years, so you
Yes.
mutually with your ex-husband, you recognize that the journey was complete for the two of you.
Yeah.
So it was a mutual agreement, but you still felt the concern for that person. So who can you would you be willing to share with us how did you had that conversation? Who spoke first? How did that came about?
I think we both realized, I remember it was January of 1997, and we both just kind of came to that feeling that we were done. And I think that he was having an affair with somebody, but that wasn't it. And I didn't dwell on that because I knew that what we had together wasn't what either one of us wanted. And I remember that we went to a therapist to try to see, well, is there enough here? And he looked at me and he said, well, actually, we had this really honest talk, and he said, look, if you would have sex with me again, let's see if we could make a go of it. And it was like, well, I just don't think that's right. Because I was on this path of personal growth, and not that he wasn't in his own way, but he didn't want the same things I wanted. And as we sat at the therapist, he asked me, can we still be friends if we get divorced? And I said, yes, sure. So there had to be a feeling inside me that this was my next step in life. And as I've learned more and deeper about the inside out understanding, that's really where you pay attention, is inside. Okay, this is the next step for me. And even though it was not easy, we cried when we went to the judge, because we did a divorce without a lawyer, and we both cried because we knew that we had loved each other, but it was over. It was done. We still loved each other in a certain way, but not in that way.
And that is so beautiful in so many different ways. Is number one, I'm wondering how many people out there are in relationships where they love each other dearly in that way we were talking about, and they recognize that it's over, but they don't want to accept the facts because they want to attempt to hold on to what no longer exists. So is that courage? The way what I'm hearing is that when you are in touch with the feeling and what is really going on inside of yourself, you know exactly what to do next. What is the next step? And,
right. Even though you don't want to do it. Even though you have no idea what's next. It is like leaping into the void and allowing the void to fill you.
Thank you for that. And then is that next stage? I love the metaphor you've used. You get into the trapeze and you don't want to let go, but you can't be hanging there forever. And is jumping to reach for the next one. And then when you choose to do that, it turns out that there was someone else wonderful waiting for you on the other side.
Yeah, because Otto had just left his wife. And it's really funny because at times I beat myself up for not leaving sooner. But when I look back, And this is what we do in life, you know. We look back and we say, oh, it all makes sense. Because we would not have intersected, Otto and I would not have intersected, because it had to be a certain time and place right there for us to get together and our hearts to open. And we had this fantastic soulmate experience, which is just bizarre. We just, it was like we got together one evening as friends because we were in the same spiritual study group in our community, and I wasn't really attracted to him, and I don't think he was me either, but we each did this energy work, physical energy work, and so we traded energy work, and sometimes, you hug the other person when you feel a connection, and we hugged and we couldn't let go. There was that feeling of being home. And I mean, I've read other soulmate experiences, like that. And it's like, oh, you do belong here with me, even though this does not make any sense whatsoever. And I remember he left about 2 o'clock in the morning that night, and we each had to get up and go to work. And he looked back at me like, no, I'm not supposed to leave. I'm supposed to stay here with you. It was very strange. But, through the years, and we've been together 20 years now, that I discovered that, well, we both discovered that we were going to do our relationship differently. We were going to be kinder to one another. We were going to learn how to communicate better. Even with that soulmate experience, we had to learn how to treat each other differently. Or I think we probably wouldn't have ended up, together after this many years. And then 2 years ago, we ran into the inside out understanding, the real, studied it. And that even took us deeper into our relationship.
And that is very beautiful. Before we move quickly, I'm just curious about that piece. So you and Otto, you met each other. You are in the same spiritual sort of development group, and you get that experience, the soulmate experience, where you give a hug and you don't want to let go. It's like,
yeah.
What is this? And is recognizing, but then it also coming to the terms, because there is an age gap.
Yes.
That from the outside may seem strange, but to you it didn't seem that strange at all. It was really easy for you to accept, or did you have some thinking about the age situation as well?
Oh, both of us had thinking about the age difference. And after we were together a little bit, he had been seeing some other woman. I mean, he was quick. He had left his wife, and then he started seeing some other spiritual woman. and I just very calmly, I don't know, it was some evening we were together after work, I very calmly said, for us to go any further, I would like for you to make a choice. And whatever you decide is fine. Now, I didn't know where that calmness came from, but I knew in that moment I was okay. Whatever he decided, I would be okay. And so at first, we had all these, okay, the age difference is going to make a difference. Well, is it? No, we're just going to stay in the present moment. And then when he decided to let that other woman go, it was like, okay, we're committed. Doesn't matter what the age difference is. And I've talked to a lot of, in my coaching, I've talked to several women, lots of women and men, where this age difference has made a difference. And that is something to recognize. If two people aren't quite in sync, but, you don't have to let it be that.
Mm.
It can work out, as well, as all I'm saying.
Love it, love it. And I really love the fact that you gave him a choice, but you shared that you're feeling calm about it. So there was no sense of urgency, no
Hmm.
neediness, nothing. So this is what we've got. He was seeing someone else. There is definitely a connection there going on. And he's saying make a choice. So I was wondering how many both men and women find themselves in complicated relationship situations because they're not willing to come from that, or maybe they don't know that they are okay no matter what the other person chooses.
Yeah, yeah, I think that was it. We
Hmm.
were clear, at the start of our relationship. We weren't into it, very far. And I thought, okay, we just need to sort this out. And I don't know where that calmness came from.
Hmm.
The only thing I can know that it was the wisdom inside me or wisdom from source was filling me at that moment.
Hmm.
And the honesty of it, his honesty and my honesty, I think was a really, really good foundation for our relationship,
Hmm.
because we weren't willing to hide. Because in our previous relationships, we'd hidden a lot from the spouses, and the spouses had hidden a lot from us.
When you say hide, what do you mean?
Not really saying the truth of what, and you have to be wary of thoughts creating the feelings. Okay, so I have these thoughts and feelings, but when it persists longer, then maybe it's time to really be honest about what it is that you know to be true.
Mm.
And for me, that was that my ex-husband and I weren't compatible any longer, that we didn't want the same things in life, but I sure didn't want to say it,
Mm.
you know. So it's this honesty that Otto and I, from our hearts, have shared from the beginning, that I think really, I don't know, it's a cornerstone in helping us to learn and grow and
Mm.
just be better people.
Yes. And it's a beautiful foundation to start from. That is, this is who I am, this is it. No, there
Hmm.
is no, the word that comes to me is wholesome.
Yeah. I think when people try to be who they think the partner wants them to be, and this is all thinking, then it sets up a very false idea
Mm.
of what you want, what the other person wants. When you want the other person to be different from what they are,
Mm.
that sets up a very um, shaky foundation.
Mm.
So both those cases, when you're turning yourself into a pretzel to try to please somebody else, I talked to a woman last week, I think, who was talking about, well, she'd been with this guy for 7 years, and she was the one that always went to his house that was about an hour away. And so somewhere in her mind, she had the idea that she had to give herself away like that. And she resented it, that that's the way it had to be. No, it doesn't have to be that. You don't have to try to please somebody else. Now, I'm not saying that you don't do things that your partner wants and loves and this kind of thing. But if you feel like there's an imbalance,
Mm.
then you really need to look within to see if you're being who you want, who you are,
Mm.
being true to yourself. I think for women that's really big too.
And that's this really important piece. One of the things that I'm hearing, one thing is wanting to give from a place of overflowing. I've got so much that it
Hmm.
really pleases me to please that person. It was like
Yeah.
I buy a present and I'm so excited because I'm already imagining how much they're going to enjoy it because I really care about the person rather than doing something because I'm attempting to win the person is a very different situation.
And doing something that you resent,
Mm,
but you try not to resent it, and oh, I'm going to, like this woman going every weekend to his house, and
mhm.
his sister lived in the house, and they didn't have any private moments. I mean, there were all kinds of circumstances, and I was just, okay, you can say no. You and I didn't say that to her because she finally realized it. Oh, okay, I can listen to my inner self,
Mhm.
and I'm resenting it. So I need to pay attention to that.
Mm. That is quite interesting. You spoke about that because that would be my next question. Did you tell the lady directly, or did you create the space for her to have her own insights about the situation?
I because of the inside out understanding,
Mhm.
I um, I am more and more guiding, but allowing the person to come to that insight themselves. Because me telling her, well, this doesn't make any sense. Doesn't make any sense to me. Just stop, stop going there. But she told me that last weekend, she said, I didn't go. And my job is to help her to listen more to what's inside her, the truth of what's inside her.
Mm,
It's the way I see it.
mm, thank you. So, about 2 years ago, you came across the what you call the inside out understanding.
Hmm.
So, if could you please share more a little bit about that story? What was going on for you? How have you heard about it?
Well, this is another funny story. My husband Otto is, I call him the scout because unlike my first husband who didn't want to have anything to do with personal growth or any of this, Otto is out there looking, constantly searching. We take all kinds of strange courses and all kinds of learnings. And he came across this understanding, the three principles, and uh, he came across Michael Neal's program for the Super Coach Academy. And at the time, I was doing a month-long, very big cleanse. I mean, it was deep and it was full of lots of things, and it left me on the couch. I mean, I don't know if you've ever done anything like that, but after a month, it was the end of that month. All I did was lie on the little settee I have on the porch and read. I mean, that was it. And so he presented me with this. Oh, I'm excited about this. What do you think? And it was a lot of money. But I was in such an altered state. And I think there are no mistakes at all. If I had been really in my right mind, I would not have done this at all because it was a lot of money.
Mhm.
And I thought, oh, okay, why not in my altered state? And it was the most wonderful thing that's that's ever happened.
Mhm, mhm,
Well, maybe not ever happened, but it was absolutely the next thing in my growth is to start my journey with this understanding, a
mm,
consciously understanding it. Because I think I've been living it, but this was a conscious understanding.
mm,
And so we took that course. It was a year and a half, actually. And then we've been doing Jamie Smart's course
mm,
now.
mm,
And that's just deepened us in our understanding.
And how, for example, in the first 18 months, how has your relationship changed? Because if I remember correctly, you said that your relationship deepened. So what exactly have you noticed? What have you experienced? What are you seeing? Yes.
Well, throughout the 20 years, we really made it a study of communication, because we knew that we really needed to sharpen our skills as far as listening to each other and not reacting and this kind of thing. So, and we'd written books about communication, what we discovered with ourselves. We did videos. And this was all good things. But with this understanding, this inside out understanding, knowing that everything is inside me, even if Otto is in a bad mood, before I'd try to get him out of it, that it was my job to fix him.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's not my job to fix him at all. I came to realize that. I don't have to fix him, because there's nothing to fix. And we did this dance, every couple has a dance that they do, or maybe more than one dance. But when he, every now and then, he would get this tone of voice, this kind of, I thought, demeaning tone of voice, and I would react, and this was in the early days, I would react and get mad at him, and it would just be this thing. And then we learned, okay, all right, that means something else. I don't have to react. I can see that he's in pain or whatever. And since the inside out understanding, since we've been deepening this, it's like there's nothing for me to do here. Even though I notice his tone of voice, I don't have to take it personally. I don't have to have any thinking about it. And, if I do have thinking about it, it's okay. I don't beat myself up.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's so much ease between us that it's like we might be triggered, but then there's immediately, this is my thinking. I don't have to believe it. I don't have to react to anything here.
Mm-hmm.
And if I do react, it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
So there's such ease, because as Otto loves to say, I mean, his thinking gets the better of him at times, about something that I may or may not have done or whatever. And he just, he's able to let it go so much easier when he realizes, oh, that's just my thinking. Okay, it'll pass. And it does. And I think just the feeling of, if I'm in a bad mood, I'll get out of it. Sooner or later, the wisdom will come to me, and I'll know how to solve that problem, or I'll know how to react or be with somebody. So there's an ease that this will not last if I'm feeling uneasy.
And that is such an important insight in terms of insight or thought, that we know for a fact that we are always experiencing thought in a moment, whatever is going through our perceptual system. And when we actually know that is what's going on, we wake up a lot quicker for what's going on. And one of the things that was going on for me that I remember now, just a few months ago, there was a person in my life that I perceived that was causing me grief because they were behaving badly.
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
And then I remember I was attending one of Dr. Keith Plevin's webinars. He did a live event, and then we had 4 follow-up calls webinars. So I was attending that. And I remember when I was giving explanations that all of a sudden I had an insight about the relationship that I've got with this person. So I was like, oh, hang on a minute. What they think of me is none of my business.
Yeah, yeah.
But then, almost a few seconds later, I had a new insight about the insight of, hang on, and it came across was, wait a minute, what? No, not only what they think of me is none of my business, in the same way that what I think of them is none of my business either.
Yes.
And that's, I'm getting goosebumps now that I'm remembering it, because it was like that allowed a bunch of emotion to drop off, because all of a sudden what I was thinking about the person is none of my business. It's not personal. It's just a thought in the moment. And when I'm using the word just is not to diminish at all, because the power of thought is
Yes.
so powerful that
Yes.
when you're in it totally in the moment, and it
Hmm.
really feels real. But that is the way it works.
Yeah, that's a great example. Yeah, because I've had that as well, where, oh, this really isn't about me. However that person's coming off, it has nothing to do with me. It could be their thinking in the moment, but it, just like you said, it's not my business. And it brings such ease. Even if you fall into it for a little bit, it's like, oh, okay. And you know what I've found, Clésia,
Hmm.
is that I still can have boundaries. I was at a women's, I belong to a women over 50 group in our community, and they offered a workshop on transitions, and I thought, oh, this would be nice. I'll go. And there was a woman there that was grandstanding, in my opinion, grandstanding. She would just talk about incessantly about her, and about, she'd make jokes. It was irritating to me that she would dominate. Here my judgments were coming up, and I just thought, I can't get out of here quick enough.
Mm.
And I thought, all right, Susie, you shouldn't be feeling this. But I am. Okay, all right, it's all right. So I left, and I was certain when they sent a follow-up email and said, we're going to start a new group with these people, I was certain then that I did not want to be part of that group. And it was okay, because she has a right to do what she needs to do. But I can still have boundaries and not put myself in that situation.
Mm-hmm.
I may not have the same, reaction to her, but I can still choose. I think that's what gets lost in reaction, is that you can still choose. You can choose whether to be part of something or interact with someone. You don't have to demonize them or think they're terrible, but you can still make a choice.
Mm. And a question that just occurs to me. Let's imagine, for example, that a single lady over 40. She has been happily single and free,
Uh-huh.
but now she's wondering, wouldn't it be nice to attract a playmate?
Yes, yes.
But she did the internet thing in the past, and when she thinks about doing it again, starts having a lot of dreadful thoughts.
Yeah, yeah.
Like oh, hard work, just in case yeah. So what sort of suggestions could you make to this lady?
Good question. Yeah. Um, I think that um, showing up with a curiosity of, oh, I wonder who I'm going to meet today. And that doesn't mean a man or a woman or, whatever. Um, but getting excited about the possibility of maybe meeting somebody who you could explore with, and maybe not settle down and have a baby and but that could be. But just finding that excitement inside you for what could be possible is what I would advise her, help her. And I would also guide her to see if there's anything inside her that any of her thinking that she's believing that could be holding her back. Could be keeping it at bay, like a fear or something that happened in the past or whatever. And not that we dwell in the past, but it would be that, oh, yes, I can see. Like Otto was just with a guy who, he was just coaching him today, who wanted a job, and he hadn't had, he's a contract person, and he hadn't had a job for like 18 months, and he couldn't figure out why. And as they talked, it came to light that, oh, wait a minute, my partner wants me to have a job and I really don't. So sometimes we don't fess up to what we really want.
Oh, that's an interesting one. So it made sense. If he didn't want a job, that he wouldn't get a job.
Yeah, that's it. That's it.
And something by connection with the hypothetical lady, it was like, yeah, if she's not interested in getting a relationship, she won't get one.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, I mean, I've coached women who said they wanted to be in a relationship, but as we talked, it was like, well, I have teenage kids, and a man would put a wrinkle in this and be, a problem. And so there was a lot that was really keeping her from being open to possible opportunities.
And that is quite interesting because there is a number of assumptions there in that lady's situation, and naturally she knows what is best for her. But I was remembering a conversation that I had recently with a lady. So she was married for the first time, she had 4 children, and then she got a divorce, and she was telling me that her 30s were pretty much about taking care of the kids, doing the school runs, and so on. But then when she approached 40, she thought, oh, okay, I actually would like to have a man in my life. But I do have these special conditions because I first and foremost are my kids, but I really, really want to get married again. So she was very clear about that when she was sharing the story with me. She said, I was very clear about what I was looking for, what is important to me, not to attach in terms of how the man would look like physically.
Yeah, sure.
But there are certain things that were extremely important to me. She was relaying to me, like religious background and so on. So things that were extremely important for her, and then the things that she didn't care too much about, how we look, color, hair, how tall, that didn't matter to her. And he ended up, from her clarity, she was telling me that she was doing online dating, and she told me, Clésia, at the time that I was looking, I was very serious about it. I was committed to being committed. So she chose to do online dating. She said, and every hour, every day, I would take 30 minutes a day to check 2 profiles, answer emails, and so on, being nice, going on coffee dates. So she was committed to being committed. She was sharing with me. And then there was like by the end, 2 men that were really interested. But one of her requirements was that she didn't want to have any more children. So one of the guys wanted to have children, so that was a mismatch. and then she met this other gentleman that was really keen, and then they got married. And the interesting thing for her is that originally, because they already had they were two independent people, so they got married, but they were living two different houses, right?
Yes.
So
Yes.
it was she was it's sharing to me. She said, Clésia, it now that I'm looking on hindsight, it was easy, but mostly because we didn't attempt to think too far ahead,
Yes.
and we didn't have a defined idea how it
Mm-hmm.
should look like. So in the beginning they were living in two different houses because they were the kids, so they did that for 1 year, and then she would go to his house over the weekend. So it's and and then she was thinking that she would be moving to his house this year because some of the kids are about to go to uni. And but then he had a change of heart. He said, you know what, I'm selling my house and I'm moving to yours.
Mm-hmm.
But she was sharing everything has been relatively easy, mostly
Yes.
because they didn't have a vision, very constricted vision of how things should look like. And because they
Mm-hmm.
didn't have that vision, things work out the best for the two of them and the children as well. So,
Oh, I love that.
yes.
That's exactly what I've seen is when people jump too far in the future,
Hmm.
planning, well, it has to look this way, it has to look that way, then it's not easy. But when you stay in the present moment and allow it to flow from you, and just take one step, then take the other step, and then the other step, then it does flow. It has a chance to flow. And one thing that I've seen is we are not in charge. We
Hmm.
think we're in charge, but we aren't. Now, we can certainly do a lot within ourselves to get into that flow so that we are flowing with life. But I love that example because that's what I've seen too with people.
Mm. Yes, I was really impressed about her story. And it comes to show there is hope if someone says, and I'm talking from ladies' perspective because I tend to speak more with women than men, but it goes both ways. If someone's thinking, oh, I've been single for too long, I'm too set in my ways, it doesn't matter. Or I've been married for a long time, I don't know if I could meet
Yeah.
someone new, it doesn't matter also. It's like, yeah,
Hmm. I'm
anytime.
too old.
I'm too old.
I'm
Yeah.
too fat. I'm too thin. It's all thinking.
Hmm.
Yes, I think that's really important to look at. Oh, I don't have to believe that because you don't. You don't have to believe. Well, the one I've heard a lot is, well, I come from a small town and I'll never meet anybody here. Well, that's not true. I was in a small town. I met the love of my life. It doesn't have to be that. So, not believing those tall tales that are rolling around in your mind, and maybe they're not even your tall tales. Maybe they come from, your mom or your friends or, you know, society. If I had believed that I was too old to be with a young guy, all this with Otto would not have happened.
Mm.
So, like you said, check your assumptions. What am I assuming here that does not have to be true? It's not true. I mean, I've seen women find love at 70, 80 years old. I mean, there's no age limit here.
Mm.
But yet some women a lot younger say it's over for me. And it doesn't have to be.
Mm. Mm. Yes. And just a quick question that occurred to me now. For someone who's watching this show for the first time, and I'm wondering, when they talking about the inside out, what do they mean with that? Susie, how would you, from your perspective, how would you explain the inside out understanding, if in a nutshell, if you could?
I'll just use a practical example of outside in is blaming everybody and circumstances outside you. Well, it's his fault. It's his fault that I am not doing well, that I'm angry, I'm whatever. So you're constantly taking a finger and going, it's their fault. It's work, work is too much. It's their fault at work, my supervisor, my blah, 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 blah. And when you realize, oh, wait a minute, I am not in charge of my circumstances, because things do happen. I got divorced. My mother died. I mean, things happen. But I am in charge of how my reaction to that comes about. That's inside. That's inside us. I can see that, oh, this is inside me, how I have a choice here, how I can respond to this. I can feel like, well, why was this done to me? Why did my husband have an affair? I blame him for this divorce. No. Even then, for some reason, I had the insight that this was just about two people who had reached the end of the line for being together. So that was inside. I was not blaming him. Although, I'll have to admit, every now and then I did blame him. I'm human after all. But in my better moments, no, this is inside me. And if I'm really honest, this was helping me do what I knew I needed to do, is be on my own. So does that, those are not words that probably some of our teachers would use to explain the inside out understanding. But it's me talking about where my experience has come from and my grounding.
And that's beautiful. Thank you very much for that, Susie. And reason being, because it's the way you see it right here, right now. That is one of the reasons why you're my guest today, because we had a wonderful connection.
Yeah.
And I thought, you know what, I would love to have you on the show if you want to come, because you've got such a beautiful story to share. And it's for our audience, if there is at least one person that can hear something from themselves, as we are all different in the sense that we live in separate realities, we all experience the world differently. Every single one of us will have a different understanding of what living from the inside out is.
Yes.
And that's great. So this is why I wanted to hear what living from the inside out means to you. How do you see it? Because there is no right or wrong. There is only your way of experiencing it. And it changes. It will evolve the same way that as human beings, we keep evolving and growing. We see things differently. And there is no value in then looking back and say, oh, back in the day, I wasn't seeing right. Yes, you were. You were seeing perfectly at that moment. And this moment, you see perfectly in this moment. So it's always moment to moment to moment. It's always fresh. Yes. So thank you. Thank you so much.
Oh, I love that. That is so beautiful, because we are all different. And when we really see that, then it makes life so much easier. And not try to make somebody into something that he or she doesn't want to be. So they can live in their own flow as we live in ours.
And there is there is a lot of freedom in that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow, I'm loving the conversation. And I'm aware that we're kind of getting to a conclusion for today.
Uh-huh.
So, Susie, how can people reach you?
Oh, well, our website is Susie and Otto, SUSIEANDOTTO.com. And we have lots of videos on YouTube. So just search for Susie and Otto Collins. And then Facebook, of course, we have a Facebook page, Susie and Otto Collins. So we've tried to make it easy for people.
And I was checking your website today. You've got a wonderful website, and you also have a newsletter with wonderful tips. So
Yes.
please, yeah, go to Susie and Otto's website and sign up for the newsletter.
Oh yeah, we have lots of free things that there and free ebooks and just we've been doing this since 1999, so we've got lots of information if you'd like to find out more.
Yes, that's wonderful. Thank you. For me, if you'd like to reach out to me, you can either go directly to my website. So that would be clesiamendes.com, which is www.clesiamendes, clesiamendes.com. Or you can find me on Facebook. So that would be facebook.com/clesia.mendes. Now, Susie, what would be your parting thoughts for our audience today?
Well, for one thing, I want to thank you because what you're doing is so important. That you're really honing in on womanhood and the inside out understanding. It's so beautiful. I absolutely love that you're really focusing on this because I think that it's so important that we as women see that, oh, there's something more here. You know, we don't have to live in this thinking constantly and making assumptions and thinking and believing that thinking. Because there's a lot culturally that goes on for women, even now, that we all buy into, but we don't have to. We can live from the inside out. And I just love that you're spreading the word. Thank you for inviting me.
You are most welcome. You are so welcome. So, thank you very much for being with us on season 2 of Womanhood from the Inside Out. We'll be back next week with a new episode, so make sure that you subscribe to the channel. And I'll see you again next week. Thank you very much, Susie. Have a beautiful day.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.